Welcome. Welcome to Hawks and Lavender Rose. I'm Shauna.
I'm Jennifer.
And this is Deb.
Hi.
This is Deb Fauth. She is our guest today. Deb is a 63-year-old evolving woman, wife of 37 years, mother of 4 sons, and grandmother to 6. In a previous life, back when she was a working mom, Deb was the program director for a sexual assault and battered women's organization, a branch manager, business banking officer, and an AVP in banking. She served as a board member for the Salem Family Resources for 25 years and currently serves as program coordinator for SRF. And on top of that, she sits on the Executive Council of the Intergenerational Collaborative of Salem. Wow.
It sounds a lot more impressive than it really was.
I don't know.
And Deb is here to talk to us today about aging and transition. So welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to have you here.
It's great to be here.
So you do a lot.
I have done a lot over the many years I've been around. Yeah. Not all of that was all at once. You know.
Thank
Oh
God.
God, I hope not. That would be
You'd
a
be
lot.
tired.
I know.
Here today.
I am actually retired.
Yes.
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 Very busy
But
for
not
a retired.
tired.
No,
Not
no,
you'd
no.
be tired.
I would
not
be
retired.
tired. Yes.
So we're here to talk about aging and transition.
Yeah. Transitions is just always been very, I don't know, cognizant in my brain, particularly since I retired.
Any particular reason since you retired?
Deb's also a yoga teacher. Was that in there?
Oh, no,
Oh,
that
yeah.
wasn't in there. My apologies. She also teaches yoga.
Yes.
Now, that's
Multi-
one of my
multifaceted
one of my
For
transitions.
children and, would you say seniors?
Seniors,
Yeah. Yeah.
and anybody else who shows up. 'Cause
Right.
I do family yoga too.
And you sub for all
Yeah.
the regular classes that
Yeah.
Joy.
All right, so let's talk about aging and transition.
Okay. All right.
What are your thoughts about that? What is your experience with it?
Aging is interesting, but transitions are more like really interesting to me. And I think one of the reasons that transitions is sort of been in the forefront of my mind is I've been through so many transitions in my adult life, especially. One of my children was very ill all of his life, and I would get a job and would have to leave it because he'd be hospitalized for long periods of time, and then he'd be well, and then I'd get a job. And what that did is it afforded me the luxury of dabbling in so many different areas.
That's
Right.
true, yeah.
I mean, that's one way to look at it anyway.
Yep. One aspect of it.
Yeah,
probably, yeah.
yeah. So I was able to try out a lot of different things because I wasn't locked in. I couldn't ever be locked into a career until after he passed away, and then banking became my career. And I did retail banking, business banking, executive banking. I did it all. And it's funny, I never loved banking. I was never in love with it, but it paid for colleges and weddings and
Yeah.
all the things that we need money for.
Yeah.
My degree is in early childhood. I've been an early childhood educator off and on throughout many of those transitions, and still do. So transitions, I think you have to really learn, it goes along with aging. Transitioning and aging are the same in that when you are going through a transition or aging through different periods of your life, you have a choice of how to accept the transitions or the different stages. And I think one of the things I've learned is the best way to accept those transitions and changes.
I think even like what you said though about having your son at home sick, like the in between were all transitions too.
Yeah.
You'd have to transition back and forth
From the hospital to home to work
To work, yeah.
3 other children. You know.
So does it get easier? Like, did you find that it ever got a little? I find transitions to be very disruptive,
Mhm.
and I've learned that major transitions from me take about a year to 2 to get really till I get back into a groove and I'm like, oh yeah, like now I feel like myself again, or
I can probably transition faster.
yeah, because you've had so many. That's why
It's called survival.
right.
Yeah. So I can probably transition
I guess I'm like
faster
a
than
full
the average bear.
transition, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But in spite of all those transitions, you never really lose who you were before that transition.
Right.
You bring
Those core parts of ourselves remain there.
yeah, and some of the skills
Right.
as well. You know, I said to you when I first got here, I left out one whole chunk of my professional life, and that was I worked in a restaurant for a long time.
Really?
Yeah, I told you I've done everything.
Wow.
Yeah, I was it was a chain restaurant, and I started out as a host because I thought, well, you know, I needed to add extra money to the early childhood non-paycheck that I was getting, low paycheck I was getting, and so I started hosting, and that transitioned into a management position and a supervisory position and an office position for a restaurant. So
Right.
that was probably that job was probably the one that was the most conducive to being Patrick's mother, because it wasn't rocket science, it wasn't brain surgery, and I could call up my boss at midnight and say, won't be in
Right.
for 2
Yeah.
weeks. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
So,
perfect.
it was a perfect job for me at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting what you say about the core parts of ourselves remaining the same through transition, and I just heard you say it takes me about a year or so to get back to myself.
Mm-hmm.
But is it really getting back to yourself, or is it just settling into a newer version of yourself that
Well,
has
it is
come out
settling
through the
in, yeah.
transition?
I think it's almost like, I mean, what I've experienced are times where I think that, like, this is fine, like, I'm fine,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
right? But then after whatever settles in, and I feel, like, whole again, you know, I
Right.
think I imagine that it just takes a little bit longer for different parts of me to catch back up.
Mhm.
And there is, like, this more evolved part of me, right, with each lesson and with each kind of change.
I have been out of the Cambridge Hospital for 3 years now. I think I've known you most of the time because you've been at
Yes,
Joy,
yeah.
but Jennifer's been with me through the entire transition. And it has taken me 3 years to fully accept and appreciate the fact that I don't have to work Monday through Friday anymore. That I'm no longer one of those people, and that I can play a major role in the community and offer whatever it is I'm offering. Well, I'm offering a lot, but I'm not making light of that. And not have to be in a Monday through Friday job anymore that I have been conditioned to believe as truth. And I've struggled with that. And I thought, when I left those doors and I saw that hospital in my rearview mirror when I was driving away that day, I thought, oh, this is awesome. And it's going to be easy. And it wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And it's all good.
I was actually thinking of you this morning, and just that, like, I've been watching everything that you've been doing for the past, I don't even know, 6 months now, and how you have, like, settled into the transition.
I have settled into a transition.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where it's going, but I'm in the ride.
Yeah.
I'm
But
ready.
I've, like, just being with you through it all, I know that
Yeah.
there was some friction with it, because there is, like, this
Definitely.
mindset. I still fight with the 9 to 5 mindset. 'Cause
You
I'm-
do?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, because I've created a life that I wanted, which doesn't require me to be at a certain place very often. And yeah, there's a part of me in the back of my mind that is like, you should be doing this, you should be, you know, you could be doing more of this, you know, but instead you do it, like, this just kind of that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I struggle with that almost every day.
Do you?
I mean, I teach one class on Monday, one class on Tuesday, sometimes 2 on Tuesday, usually nothing on Wednesday. I usually save that for meetings. On Thursday, I teach one class, and Friday, I have nothing. And it's like, so what do I do on those days that I don't have?
Do you find there's always plenty to do?
Of course
Right.
there is, but there's also plenty of time to sit and do nothing, or to read, or, you know, embroider, or, you know, do any of those relaxation kind of things that I love to do, but I still struggle with the guilt
Yeah,
of, oh, I should be doing something.
Yeah.
Why am I still sitting here?
right. It's like this feeling that you need to contribute more than you are.
Yeah.
Even though there's not actually,
Mhm.
you are contributing just by being alive.
That's very true.
Yeah.
It's very true. Okay, we're going to ask you some questions. So what are some of the practices that you've integrated into your life as you have aged and come into crone, right? We haven't
Yeah,
even
I
mentioned.
love being crone.
Yeah, me too. We haven't even mentioned.
I'm not sure you're there yet, but
I don't know. 52. What do you think?
Doesn't it have you gone through menopause?
Have not.
Okay, you're not there yet.
So then I think that is crone. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
So,
what
I'm
is it?
still
Is it
it's
maiden?
maiden mother
Mother
crows.
crone.
Okay.
Crone crows.
So mother.
Or
Yeah.
crows. Works too.
Crow.
See these crows?
So what are some practices
Okay.
that you have integrated in your life in regards to your aging process and your transition into crone?
Okay, so one of the interesting things, and I love the whole maiden mother crone analogy, because when you leave maiden into mother, you transition into someone who you're nurturing. To me, in my mind, it's your nurturing part that you don't necessarily have as a maiden, but you don't lose any of the maiden. You're just adding to it, and you're adding that nurturing and that capacity to love. I remember when my first son was born, I thought no one in this universe has ever loved anyone as much as I love this child. And then I got pregnant again, and I thought, I totally was nervous that I wouldn't love this second child as much because I gave all my heart to the first one. And of course, we all know that isn't what happened, and my mom is the one who said to me, no, it multiplies, you're fine, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You're good.
You're good.
There's all these little compartments that, yeah.
It'll multiply, it's fine. So you never lose anything, you just add to it. And then when you go from mother to crone, I mean, we can talk about the physiological things in a minute, but as far as emotionally, you don't leave the maiden or the mother, you bring that with you into crone, and you just expand. So it's very it's an expansive
That's a
transition.
great word.
No, it's almost like marriages, right? Like they marry each other and become, like the crone is almost like the becoming of all of it.
It's like wicked cool.
Yeah, that sounds wicked cool. I
So
love
that's
that.
the positive
Yeah.
of crone.
Yeah.
You just, as long as you can open your heart to it and not shut down.
Right.
And working with some of the elderly, I noticed that some do shut down, and I just pray that I will not be one that gets to that point, that I can continue to just be open and let everything in and keep growing. And I think that's a huge thing.
What do you notice that they
Yeah,
shut down around?
Yeah.
I mean, for my own,
I was just going to ask
so I
that
can
too.
put that back there.
What are you noticing, if you can give us an example?
I think that the loneliness and the negativity about their limitations,
Okay.
physical. I think that we can get too caught up in the physical. Yeah.
I don't know anybody like that.
I think that's it, and that's one of. So you asked me my transitioning when I retired from banking. Like you, I drove away. I did not look back because I never loved it. You know, it was a good career. It was a lucrative career. I learned a lot, but I never loved it. I loved the people, but I didn't love the career
You
itself.
summed up the Cambridge Hospital for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people can
Yeah.
Relate to that.
Yeah.
And I'm so fortunate that at a still relatively young and vibrant age, I'm able to walk away from something I didn't love and do things I do love, which is awesome. And a lot of that is because I have a wonderfully supportive husband who had an even better job. So there is the
Are
reality.
you living my life right now?
But there is the reality of finances. that,
Absolutely.
And I'm very
Yeah.
fortunate that I was able to do that. But when I retired, to go from 180 miles a minute and complete multitasking, everything from brushing my teeth to, while I was doing a million other things, and I'd be on the phone typing on my computer, and then I'd put music on in the background and tell myself I was relaxing. That was me. That was me relaxing, right?
Yeah. I can relate to that.
So all of a sudden, all that's gone. I'm in the house completely alone. Kids are silent. And there was a long time that just felt fabulous. And I went through and I cleaned every room in my house, like deep cleaned it and got really into it. But the biggest thing that I promised myself I would do, and I didn't even know mindfulness was a thing then. This was almost 4 years ago. I didn't know mindfulness was a thing. I wasn't into yoga and meditation and mindfulness. That wasn't in my world.
Yeah.
I just knew I had to stop multitasking.
Yeah.
For my own sanity. I had to stop. And
Well,
that's
for you
what
to
I
even
did.
recognize that you were multitasking is pretty
That's big.
That was called survival.
Yeah.
But
Right.
so I stopped multitasking, and if I was cleaning out a closet, I was 100% focused on that closet. That was not hard. That was not easy to do. To stop my brain from going in a million different directions was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And that, just to even put the multitasking even funnier, I knew I had to do something for my body. I gained 35 pounds with menopause. And it's just a natural, it happens. It's physiological, and it happened. I was also sitting at a desk for 12 hours a day.
Right.
But, so I recognized I needed to do something for my body, for my physical self. And so I, at the same time, joined a gym and joined Joy. I couldn't do one, I had to do both.
Right.
And I hated the gym. I hated everything about the gym. And I loved Joy. And I fell in love with yoga. One of the hardest things I ever did was walk into that studio. It was really hard.
For what reason?
I knew nothing about it. I mean, I'd seen the Jane Fonda yoga video. I think that was about as far as that's what I knew about yoga.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what that looks like. But
It's an
Jane
oldie.
Fonda.
It's an old one. It's an old one.
she wears
Body
a leotard.
suits.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
leotard leg warmers.
Yes, I know. But I walked into
Aw.
Joy, and it was intimidating for me because I can be very reserved around people I don't know, and actually I knew one of the people in there, Joanne Croft. I knew her from PTA from
that's
1,000 years
right.
ago.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I thought, okay, and she gave me a big smile, and we hugged, and I thought, okay, I can do this, and here we are. I was practicing for maybe a year and a half before I took your teacher training.
Yeah.
And I absolutely have fallen in love with it. So my daily practices, that was your original question. It was a long-winded answer
That's
to get
okay.
to it, but mindfulness, meditation. I could not start my day now without meditation.
I think it's so interesting that you knew you needed to focus on one thing. Like that was your intuition that was just saying, this is how my brain is going to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
I felt
And that
scattered.
was your transition.
I had to get rid of the scatterbrain.
And I love that it seems like maybe men do this too, but as women, we clean things out physically
Yeah.
in order to clean things out mentally.
Make space.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's so neat.
I multitasted with the best of them. I prided myself in my
I did too.
multitasking.
Oh, it was a source of
You
pride.
need help? Come to me. I can do it. Now it's like,
I'm going to cry myself to sleep, but just bring it on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
so what, if anything, have you tried to hold on to in your life through this transition into Crohn?
I'm not sure I know what that means.
Like a clinging to?
Yeah. Was there something you have been clinging to, a part of yourself or an aspect of life that is slipping or has slipped or has left your life?
So for a long time, and this is a very recent new transition, I'm going to say vanity.
Okay.
I have to say vanity.
I love that honesty,
Me
because
too.
I feel like we can all relate with that.
Yep.
My nails had to be perfect. My hair had to be, they're not.
They look
They look
gorgeous.
pretty perfect.
No, the acrylics or gels
alright.
came off.
Okay.
For a lot of reasons, health being one of them, but
Yeah.
cost is another.
Yeah.
And the fact that I let go of having to look perfect all the time. I mean, I put makeup on today for this, so there's a little vanity still there.
Mm-hmm.
But most days, you're not going to see me in anything, maybe a little lip gloss.
Mhm.
You're not going to see me in makeup most days anymore.
I think though your personality is just put together. When I look at you and think about you, I think Deb is
Yeah.
just put together.
And
like
I don't
you,
see it as vanity. I see it as you like to present yourself in a certain way.
I think naturally though too. I mean that's the way I
Well, that's
view
nice.
you. It's like
That's very flattering
Yeah.
to hear, but I mean, I used to spend a lot more time on it.
yeah.
A lot more money on my hair. For me to spend $300 at a hairdresser's was
Like no big deal.
nothing.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah.
I spend about, well, I won't tell what I spend, but it's significantly less. I don't want my hairdresser to start charging me more if she sees this. But let's just say it's significantly less,
Yes.
and I'm just as happy with the way I look. I care more about the way I feel now. I mean, there's still vanity because I want to dress. You do want to dress nice. You do want to present your best version of yourself.
But would you consider it vanity or just an actual cultivation of self-love? Like this is what you enjoy.
Self-care.
I think what I do now self-care
That's
and
what I mean,
self-love. I think
versus-
what I do now is, yes.
So it's interesting, like, so the question was about clinging to something that has been threaded through your all of the phases of maiden, mother, and crone. And it's still threaded through, but it's just it's transitioned.
Yes, it has. And I'm more interested in how I feel and how healthy I feel. Yes, I dropped the 35 pounds that I gained, and I feel amazing physically.
And you said that just kind of happened naturally, though, right?
It did.
Yeah.
A healthy lifestyle, moving a lot.
Right.
A lot of moving, but it's not a great Herculean feat for me to have lost 35 pounds, because this is where I was before. I feel like I've gone back to my natural self. You know, this is who I should, I don't want to say should, but I mean, this is
Who you want to be.
This is the groove. This is where you feel like, all right, this is where I am.
Yeah.
Like, this is me.
And I think the fact it happened naturally is because menopause is over. I've taken control of my lifestyle, my eating. It just...
Your practices, less stress, like there's so many
it
contributing
it has all come together. There isn't any, I didn't go on a diet. I didn't go on any diets. I just took care of myself. And
that's
I
a very
continue to
exciting
take care
feature
of
of
myself.
Crohn.
Yeah.
To me. Yeah. And I have the time to be introspective and to think.
Yeah.
I didn't always
what I love
have
about
that
this transition,
time.
right? It's that, because I wrote down guilt when you were talking earlier. I don't know if you experienced any guilt.
Oh, honey, it's my middle name.
Oh,
you know.
okay. Because
I'm a mother.
here I am.
I
You know,
know,
Jennifer and I have
right.
created this podcast, and I'm so grateful for this time that I have to create, just be creative.
Yeah.
And then I think, oh, I feel a little guilty because some people are at work Monday through Friday. And then I have to remind myself, I've been given this golden opportunity to live my life this way and to just fully embrace it.
But don't you think you made that opportunity and it was a choice that you made? Choice is big with me.
Choice is big with me as well. And yes, I did make the decision to leave that job.
Yeah. We could both
But I was
still be
also
in-
thinking I was going to be launching myself into another full-time job. And
okay.
Yeah.
See, I left banking to
didn't.
take care of my mom. And then she ended up 2 months later in a nursing home. So that was gone.
right.
And then,
Another transition.
yeah.
We're
Another-
constantly going through transition.
Well, and I think that we need to embrace the change.
And I witness a lot of women who are very vain and who fight aging, fight it tooth and nail. And I don't know, I'm just kind of in that energy of accepting. Like this morning when this afternoon when I was putting makeup on before you got here, I'm noticing all the lines, and I thought, you know what? Doesn't matter.
Are they vain, or is it fear? I mean, there's so many.
Oh,
The word
well,
vain
yeah.
is like, you know, there's a lot that.
And I think vanity
Just
is
to
different
give
than
women
vain.
a little bit more, you know.
I think vanity
credit.
is different than vain, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a subtle difference there.
All right. I can feel that. The
And-
subtle difference.
I'd have to think about it more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe another topic.
All right, she's coming back.
Well, vanity is more like preparation. I mean, this is how it's just coming out.
Vain
to
is
me
more of
right
an emotion, and vanity is almost what you do. I don't know. I'd
Yeah.
have to think about it.
We would like to know your opinion on that.
Yeah.
The difference between being
Vanity.
vain and vanity.
And is
So-
vain, or is it a covering up? Is it a, you know, like, what are you hiding? Is it a...
Oh, you just triggered something.
Yeah,
in
and
me.
I'm over here thinking, Shonda, you said the wrong thing. Wow, talk about self-judgment. Go ahead.
You just
What
you
was
just
triggered?
triggered something with
Sorry.
me.
Or I'm not sorry. I don't
So-
know.
Don't apologize. Oh, I pointed at you.
It's okay.
Don't apologize.
So I'm going back to the maiden mother transition, because when I was a very young mother. I was 21 when I had Mike and 23 when I had Pat, and divorced from their father when Patrick was 6 months old.
I didn't know this about you. Okay, go ahead.
I think I did know, but I forgot. But now I'm like, oh, this is
So,
this is the best conversation ever.
when Patrick
today.
was born, he was very ill. He had cystic fibrosis, and my ex-husband could not deal with any of it. And my way of dealing with it, which I'm not necessarily proud of, was like, I can't use the word I'm thinking of, but you know.
Yes, you can.
No, I'm not, because Lucy's here.
Oh.
But it was like,
Right, like F off.
yeah, that was
Okay,
it.
all right. I'm a
That
mind
word
reader.
right there.
And so I didn't have anything left over to deal with that. But anyway, I was a single mother with a very ill child and a toddler and living in a cottage that my parents owned. on this little lake, and I planted my own garden, and I got into my full strength hippie mode, planted my own garden, made my own food, did everything. I was loving my life. I was loving this transition. I needed money to survive. I wasn't getting, I think I was getting $20 a week in child support or something, ludicrous. Even 40 years ago, that was ludicrous.
Yeah.
And so someone told me to call social services and to go on welfare, aid for dependent children. I was in Massachusetts, so I did. And before I did that, though, I was taking care of other children. I put that early childhood degree to some use, and I was babysitting, taking kids into my home and babysitting. So this social worker came to my house to interview me to get support. And, I'm so honest. She asks, how much money do you have coming in? And I had it all written out, all my different families and what days I had them and how much money I was making. And she goes, oh, well, you'll have to stop doing all that if you're going to go on aid for dependent children because you're making too much money. And I said, well, I'm not even making enough to pay utilities and heating bill, and it's not enough. Well, we'll give you more, but you have to stop bringing this money in.
That's crazy.
And I said, it was nice talking to you, bye-bye.
Yeah.
And so I decided I still needed more money, and I really didn't want to take on any more children because I had enough. And so I got a job at a restaurant. And I got a waitressing job, and I am probably the world's worst waitress. Now, I weighed about 110 pounds, and I was, this little thing with a long red braid down my back, and I could not hold a tray. I did not like men pinching my bottom.
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, who would?
And I didn't like the comments, and I dropped a cup of hot coffee on someone's lap.
By accident?
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't like what he said to me or where his hands were. So the owner of the restaurant brought me into the office, and I thought he's going to fire me, and that's legit.
Yeah.
Okay. It's legit.
Maybe. I don't know.
And he said, I'm going to train you to go behind the bar because nobody can touch you back there.
See? You're such a leader. You are.
Yes.
So, and I was I wasn't then, I was pretty timid, but he obviously saw something in me and put me behind the bar and trained me behind the bar. But I thought, all right, I was really scared to do that. So I thought, I'm going to put on makeup. And I would get ready for work, because it was talk about transitions, a house full of children.
Yeah.
And going to be behind a bar, and it was kind of a working class bar.
So were you doing that by
at the same
day
time?
and this by night?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yes.
You didn't sleep.
And thank goodness for my parents. They watched my kids at night. So I went behind the bar, but before I would get ready to go to work, I would put on my face. And it was an actual, I felt like I was putting a mask
That's
on.
what I mean, yeah.
That's why I said you triggered it, because I would put on my mask. And I would go behind the bar, and I loved it.
You created a persona.
I did,
yeah.
and it was not me, but it raked in the tips.
Or it was a part of you.
It is a part of you.
Yeah.
It is. And,
That you allowed to bubble to the surface.
I've seen that part of you.
Yeah, it was fun. I had a good time. That's how I met my husband. That's how I met
Ooh!
Wow.
I love that.
So that's, transitions and, so many transitions. But you just have to accept them all, and you can't, you were saying guilt. I don't allow myself to feel guilty for those types of things.
And what would you suggest to people? How does one accept it, right? Because people have different levels of acceptance, and what might come really easy for you in the form of acceptance could be really challenging for someone else. So if you were to offer a suggestion, maybe something that's worked for you in regards to accepting things, I love...
Like accepting change?
Yeah, just parts of the transition, accepting aging.
Well, the alternative isn't great.
No, it's not. But a lot of people stay there and just
and cling to
what
was, I think.
Right. I love greeting life as life is presenting, or accepting life. Greeting life as life is presenting itself to me, right? And just holding on to that, then I'm able to release some of the complaining, because complaining is just a non-acceptance of what is, right? So if we're complaining about the lines on our face, if we're complaining about the pain in our body as we're getting older, we're not greeting life the way life is presenting itself. We're not accepting, so we're complaining. What could you offer our audience in regards to your practice on accepting rather than fighting. If I'm even wording that correctly.
I know what you're saying, and I'm trying to think of how I would word it, because I think there's a lot I have fought over the years, but I think you just get to a point where you can make a choice. And I really think it's about choice.
Yeah.
You know,
so you feel like you got to a point where you started to make choices.
Make
I think it had to
choices,
do
yeah.
from like everything that you've said today is you became aware of your situations, and then you practiced mindfulness that you didn't know how to word.
Mhm.
Like when you really
Didn't
came
know that
into
was a
it,
thing.
right? And then you started to make choices based on what made you feel
Yeah.
better throughout these transitions.
And I think life presents choices to us all the time.
Sure does.
When Patrick died, there's a choice right there. We had a family member who, someone in my husband's family lost a child 6 months or so, I think, after Patrick died, in a tragic car accident. And they chose to not let go of their grief, not let go of their anger, their angst, their everything, and their health suffered terribly. He's now passed away, and I think she's still alive, but she's like a hermit, you know. I made a choice that was not an easy choice, and I can't say I made it alone. Lots of support, lots of love. Definitely not alone. No heroes here, but I made the choice to live and to go on and to smile and to laugh. And talk about guilt. There were times when I would find myself laughing or singing, and I'd go, oh, how can you do that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how dare you do that? That's so disloyal, you know. And then I found myself laughing at myself.
Right. And that's like so beautiful, everything you just said. I know we've had these conversations before, and I always, like, my heart just goes out. Like, you're really a pillar of many things, but that's a
Strength.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I still cry.
Of course.
Well,
I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah.
And I've heard
And he's
you
worthy of the tears.
Of course.
He's worthy of the
and
tears.
you did not squander his life because you chose to live. So your intuition always guided you. Like, you always listened. Maybe you didn't have that word for it,
Right.
but I mean, it's just everything that I'm gathering from this conversation. You're an amazing woman.
Thank you. Thank you.
What has been really easy about the aging process for you?
I love being respected because of my age. That's something that you
I
don't
love how you said that. So great.
It's like I relish it. But there is a level, you know, everybody always said, oh, you're so cute, you're so little, you're so cute, and it always felt demeaning to me. And I know they didn't mean it that way, but there's something about being older and having a few wrinkles, and I feel like I have more, I'm seen as having more substance. And that, I think, is from aging.
So wisdom.
And I kind
comes
of
with
recognize that, and it's
experience.
wisdom. I agree that I feel that I have developed, and I'm still learning so much and developing wisdom, but I think wisdom does come to you, and your perception shifts dramatically.
Huge.
And that's been, and I'm loving that shift in perception and embracing it and choosing to think this is a great thing. There's that choice again.
And I'm at the beginning stage of that. Like, I feel like that I haven't gone through menopause yet, but I feel like that has started to take place. As soon as I hit my 50s, I was like, all right, let's go. I am totally ready for this. And it's okay. Like, I embrace it fully. What about, this keeps popping up for me, and maybe because it's my shit that I'm dealing with. Sorry, Lucy. The idea of other people's
So,
judgments.
like, who is Lucy? Sorry.
Jennifer's daughter's here.
She's
over
our
there.
live audience today.
The idea of opinions and judgments from other people.
That's always
how
hard.
That has shifted for me. It's like I said, it's at the beginning stages, and I'm really getting to that I don't care part of myself, which is a wonderful place to be when I think back to my teens and my 20s and even 30s. 40s was the start of my awakening. But so can you say anything about that and your experience of that shifting of perspective?
Well, I think that having people in my life who love me and respect me allows that to happen. So it isn't all me. it's feeling supported, feeling appreciated and loved, and I have a wonderful family. Children, grandchildren, super husband. I have great cousins. There's just a lot of people in my life.
So it's the support system
yeah.
around you that has helped you
I think so.
ease into that.
I think so.
Okay, that's great.
Because if your 7-year-old granddaughter thinks you walk on water, it's pretty hard to care what somebody else thinks.
Oh, wow. See, I don't have that yet,
That's
but I
really
can imagine
cool.
that is pretty
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
But it could be anybody. It could be a
Right.
child, a husband, a friend. If somebody thinks you are fabulous,
Yeah,
it
but-
doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks.
Okay.
Someone that you think is like the sun and the moon.
Yeah.
And this thought leaves my mind, what you said before about coming into crone, right? And the respect that you get and not being cute anymore and all that. Like you've embodied that. So that it's like a reflection now.
Mm.
So I think that's really cool. Like I just imagine you stepping
It's like you
up
blossom.
to the
It's like you blossom.
You're like, now I am to be revered.
Yes.
I shall look down upon. No, I'm only kidding. But it's very queen.
Not at her height. She's still looking up.
Yeah, still looking up. That's not nice. But no, it's very queen. Like it feels very queen.
teasing.
I know. Only because I
know.
get that.
Yeah.
That whole thing, and it is like. Feels a little condescending.
And one of the reasons my height, I always have to remark on, my husband is 6'4".
Is he really?
And you're like 5 feet.
5'1", sort of,
Alright.
and a little bit. But when I walk into his house, his father is well over 6 feet. His mother is 5'12".
Really?
And his sister is 5'12". Notice I didn't say 6 feet
Right,
because they
right.
don't want to be 6 feet tall. And his
Wow.
brother is like 6'5". So I walk into their house and
She's like this.
You're
I mean,
like,
it's
hey.
like, it's bizarre. But so I've always been teased about my height, always.
Which I never understood why it wasn't the other way around. Why don't tall people get teased?
Yeah, why don't?
Because they're,
Well, I think some people do get teased.
yeah,
you think?
I think girls do. Why do you think
Oh,
my
okay.
sister-in-law prefers to be 5'12"?
Okay.
So yeah,
Yes,
I think
alright.
they do. I
Okay.
think they do. Yeah.
What, if anything, has been difficult for you through the aging process?
I think aches and pains. I don't like them.
Neither do I. They suck.
I don't think anybody does. So I don't like that. I would have said prior to the past couple of years, the weight gain I didn't like at all.
Mhm.
That I didn't like. Now what bothers me? Not much.
Good.
To
That's a
be
good
honest
thing.
with you.
Yeah.
I don't like the aches and pains particularly, but I am so blessed. I'm blessed with good health. I'm blessed with a wonderful family and a great life, doing the things I like to do.
Mhm.
I can't really say that, it's not perfect. Nothing's ever perfect.
Define perfection.
Yeah, I don't know. Boring, probably.
What pearls of wisdom can you offer the audience in regards to their own aging and transition process?
I think accepting it and choosing to be the best version of yourself that you can be. But
And that
who
can
you are
differ from day
today,
to day.
yeah, and who you are today isn't necessarily who you were 10 or 15 years ago, and hallelujah for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's funny, I don't look in the mirror a whole lot anymore. When I was younger, I felt I had to always be like, checking something
Yeah.
out. I don't even look anymore because who I am is inside of me.
Mhm.
It's a perception shift.
So then what I'm hearing you say to the audience is to practice acceptance of where you are, practice acceptance of the transitions, and to love yourself from the inside out.
Yeah.
That it's more important to just be focused on that well-being and that love within you. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I think that's important, but I also think it's important to be of service and to get outside of yourself. That's always been kind of an underlying thing with me is for every blessing that I have, and this comes from my grandmother, but for every blessing that I have, I need to give back.
Mm-hmm.
And when no one was ever unhappy from giving back. No one ever said, I wish
No.
I hadn't done that.
Right.
That's so true.
Well, sometimes when I think of like an old school idea of retirement is you move down to Florida and you sit on a beach all day long.
Well, I do that for 3 months.
Well, I know you do. She's going to be leaving very
You
soon,
love
by
it,
the way.
you love it.
But I'm talking full time.
Yeah.
And And I know people that have retired with absolutely no plan. And I've read somewhere, or someone told me once, that people spend more time planning a vacation than they do their retirement. And there's always time. So people can retire at 60 years old. What if you live for 40 more years?
Right.
Right. And you know what?
That's a lifetime.
It is. And that's something that my husband and I are going through. He retired at 60. I retired at 59. And we're not rich. You know, we don't live extravagantly.
We're still happy.
We are. And one of the things that we felt was so important to us is you read, and we know so many people that the minute they retire from their job at 65 or 68, they have a heart attack and die.
Right.
Yeah.
I
And
hear those stories all the
we
time.
had children young, so we didn't travel, we didn't do a lot of that stuff when we first when he married me. I had 2 children, and then we proceeded to have 2 more. So we never had that time to do all those things. And we may not want to travel to Europe, or we can afford to, take trips like that, but we can rent a cottage in Maine and spend a week enjoying each other's company. So it's it's choices. We just got rid of Comcast, and we just saved ourselves like $700 a year from some doing some creative stuff, which I give all kudos to him, because I just said, as long as I can watch Good Morning America, you can do it.
Yeah, right.
But so we economize. I'm not spending $300 at the hairdressers or getting my nails done every other week or any of those crazy things, facials and expensive face creams and all that stuff. It's all gone. But I'm happy. And it's it's the choice again. It's
when I think about the paycheck that I used to bring home from the Cambridge Hospital every week, the freedom that I have now outweighs that paycheck
so much.
more than I can even possibly share. And I am grateful because I do have a husband that can support my creativity, financial support, which has been wonderful.
It's big.
It is. But I've been willing to sacrifice.
Yeah.
That's, I guess I want to say that. What are you willing to sacrifice to get what you want?
Yeah.
And I want this freedom. I want this time for creativity and to explore and for the introspection and to continue to grow my business. And that I'm willing to sacrifice that bigger paycheck to do that.
And what is freedom? I think even just to reflect on.
Right. What is
something
freedom
that
mean?
like is coming up is 40, 50, 60, right? Essentially, when I hit 40, even though I know I could live till I'm 100 or whatever, it almost felt like I was looking on the other side now, right? So there's a sense of like, all right, how do I want to live like the rest of my life? It feels so different compared to like when I turned 20. Right? You feel like you have all the time in the world.
Right.
And then there's such a shift, for me anyway, and it sounds similar, like coming from both of you, of like simplifying and really just enjoying. It's like fine tuning. That's what it feels like. That's
I love
like
simplifying.
Yeah, and just like the details of life that you can be aware of and mindful of. It doesn't have to be the gigantic leaps and bounds and like being this big presence in the world. It's about like enjoying everything along. I don't know. That's what it feels
But
like for
still
me.
having a significant presence in the world, just not on a grand scale.
Well, and whatever it ends up being,
Right.
but that's not like the end game. There is no end game. It's like being present, simplifying, enjoying, and like I just almost imagine like hands going in dirt. Like you dig in more, versus being like flighty. That's the sense that I have. Like as I turn 40.
And who's to say if you make one person smile or make one person feel better during a day, that isn't going to have an enormous ripple effect.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's huge.
It
Yeah.
sure is.
And I think there's that perception shift. I used to think I had to change the world when I was in my 20s, and I can't tell you how many marches I went on, and battered women's marches, sexual assault marches, marching for women's rights, all of that stuff. That was a big part of my 20s and early 30s, and I felt I always felt guilty I wasn't doing enough, that I should do more, and honestly going that whole route almost killed me. It was emotionally very, very difficult for me, and thank goodness I was able to pull back from it. But now I feel good if I'm teaching a chair yoga class and I have a woman come up to me and say, I look forward to this all week. I've done done my job.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
done for the day.
Right.
You know, I mean, really,
Yeah.
it's really all it takes is if you can have affect positive change once every day, or for one person, you're there.
And you're not even seeking her comment either, because
No.
you're so like in the moment and fulfilled that's almost like a surprise. Like, oh,
That's awesome.
well, yeah, yeah.
Well, for me, that goes along with remaining humble.
Mhm.
And that's a major thing for me, is just, it's just me. I'm just being.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
Well, and that's another thing I think that comes with transitions is learning to just be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's just being, it's accepting, choices, note-taking,
A little wine doesn't hurt.
a little wine never
Chocolate,
hurts.
obviously.
Chocolate is
I just
good.
ate a whole bowl
I know.
before we
I
started.
told her I had a chocolate bar for lunch today, so.
There's no lie. Jennifer ate probably 16 pieces of little candy before we started.
That
recording.
adds up to 1.5 to 2 big ones.
Yeah. So, so how would you like to leave today's podcast? Is there anything else that you would like to share? Any other thoughts? Anything that we haven't touched upon yet?
I think only that when I am sad or depressed or lonely or whatever, because I have those days many times, just like everybody else in the world, if I reach out to someone else, that's the way to go. Not staying inside my head. I love being inside my head a lot. I do.
Yeah.
My head is always going. I live inside my head sometimes. But if I'm having a bad inside time, the best thing for me to do is reach out to someone else.
I love that. And you've talked about that in different ways throughout the whole podcast today.
Yeah.
About family being what has like held you throughout
A
many
support system.
transitions. Yeah.
So we recommend really doing your best, if you don't have a support system, to somehow create a support system, right? Go to your local yoga studio. I imagine there's a nice community there.
Yeah. And allow it to take time.
Yeah.
You know, I think.
And it's not
And to
the
be
pushing
open
it.
to it.
Yes. Open, allowing, receptive to the unfolding of the transition, rather than trying to control or push something forward. And that's a level of acceptance again. Right?
And I think knowing that other people are going through the same thing that you are, and that they're feeling just like you are, if not worse. And I think accepting that. I mean, as a kid, I always used to think, well, I'm the only one that feels this way. You know, I'm the only one that is afraid to walk through the gym to the locker room and gym or whatever. You know, all of those things. I'm probably the only one who goes home and has nightmares of opening my school locker. You know, and then you find out everybody has that. And that's another huge perception shift.
Right.
You know, however crappy my day might be, there's someone else that's having a crappier day.
That's very true.
And I'm going to feel better if I reach out to them.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I know. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
This was
Deb,
a
for
great
being here
conversation.
and
Welcome.
sitting
It
in
was my
conversation
pleasure.
with us. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to close up shop now.
All right.
But before we say where to find us, we are taking applications for guests. So if you would like to be a guest on Hawks and Lavender Rose, please reach out to us.
Send us an email.
You can send us an email, hawksandlavenderrose@hotmail.com. You can find us in our private Facebook group, on Instagram. You can find me under my name everywhere, because like what I love to say, I am the only Shauna Gulbrand in the world, on the planet.
Are you sure?
I am positive.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
You're
thanks.
positive, for real?
I've Googled it. I'm the only one.
Well, then it must be true.
If the internet says it, it's true.
Oh, boy.
There aren't many Gulbrands in this world.
No.
Let's just put it. And if
No.
there are, they're all over in Sweden.
Okay. Yeah. Jennifer Williams, Journey Home Yoga, Everything Joy. That's where you can find me. And now we have our podcast on the podcast app.
Yes.
Hawks
Let's
and
announce
Lavender
that.
Rose.
It's on your podcast app.
YouTube, Hawks and it's A-N-D, not the and symbol.
Yeah. So you can search it either way with the and symbol, or A-N-D, and you'll be able to find us. And we're super, super excited that you tuned in to listen and watch. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deb.
We love you.
welcome.
Thank
It's
you,
my
Deb.
pleasure.
We love you too, and we love
Yes.
you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.